we're so conditioned that if the word sale comes up, we think we're saving money, and
Mm,
many times we're not. And I would think that that's part of the emotion driven by the marketing, because marketing is very powerful, and
yes.
it tells us we need things that we don't really need. It tells us that we're less than if we are not like our neighbor who has the new car. We're less
Mm,
than if we're not like the neighbor who has the new house or the newest outfit or whatever. And we buy into that for the most part. Unsubscribe from all those emails. And if you decide you want to buy a car, then you start doing your research, because those emails will come into your inbox and they will tell you it's time for you to buy a car. And then before you know it, you'll start thinking, I need to buy a car, when you're really not ready. So
mm.
when you know you're ready, then you do the research instead of letting the marketers tell you you need a new sofa, you need a new car. Hey, 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 Savvy Squad. Welcome to another episode of the Dr. Sev Talks Money YouTube and podcast, where we empower women to manage money confidently. Today's guest is Bass Moreno. He's a licensed social worker and financial wellness expert who helps people get to the heart of their money struggles. Bass, welcome to the Dr. Sev Talks Money podcast.
Thank you for having me.
You are welcome. Money is always a touchy subject. So I like to start off the podcast with a fun icebreaker question. And today's icebreaker question for you is, if your money mindset had a theme song right now, what would it be and why?
Wow, that's a good question. I would say Mind Right, Money Right by Memphis Bleak. Uh,
Mm.
take it back to late 90s, early 2000s. Um, I mean, pretty much that's kind of where I've been at, trying to get my money money situation right, and kind of like the struggles of entrepreneurship, the all the back end stuff that like I'm struggling with currently, and trying to, you know, just be disciplined and trying to make the time to do what I need to do to make some money in my business on top of, my 9 to 5 and everything else that I'm doing.
Yeah, I understand. Mine would be Level Up by Sierra. Level up, level up.
Okay.
Because I've done the work, and now I'm elevating and I'm bringing others with me, especially
Mm,
women. I'm wanting them to get the hope that, there is hope uh, in rebuilding your finances, in making that next step
mm,
to get your finances together. And it's not going to be a 1 mile sprint, but it's going to be maybe a small jog, or a
mm.
walk. Step by step we'll get there. So that would be mine, is Level Up by Sierra.
I like it.
All right, so let's start with your story.
Yeah.
What inspired you to combine social work and financial education? And I think that's really a great intersection. But especially for communities of color in the sandwich generation, what made you decide to come to to intersect those?
Yeah. So really, like, I would say mid 2000s, when married when I was married for 9 years. I have two children. Got
Mhm.
divorced in 2015, and then literally, like, my credit was like in the mid, like 550 around there.
Yeah.
Um, just just trying to figure out how to get back. I had good credit at one point, and in the 700s, and like divorced with two kids in 550s, and working back home, living back home, my parents, and just a whole reset. Hit the whole reset button on my life, and kind of navigating, and savings, and trying to save, and like always in the negative, and kind of
Yeah.
um, just navigating the personal finances as a newly single adult with two
Yeah.
kids was not. And then obviously, 2020 came, and like pretty much the kind of the boom of financial literacy took place, and kind of like I kind of like learning what I wish I would have learned in 2015, 2016, and like even like life insurance, getting more bang for your buck in terms of life insurance. Unfortunately, my ex-wife had passed away in 2016. I was like, I wish I knew about like the more bang for your buck in terms of life insurance. I could have gotten a better policy than I did from my ex-wife, um, or even like a better policy for my mom when she passed in 2020, during COVID. So kind of like learn about finances, and then it wasn't until 2023 that there was a the first ever social work wealth conference, and that was my first introduction to financial social work. And there's a whole certification uh, that social workers can do, or pretty much anybody could really do actually, and pretty much self-paced course, and then you take a final exam. And I was like, 2024, I'm going to do this. So literally,
Yeah.
pay for the course, and then pass the test, and kind of using that no, in my journey, and also no being a member of the sandwich generation myself. No, going back to 2020, caring for both my parents and my kids at the same time, being a only child on top of that too, and then now I'm caring for my dad and both my kids, and kind of like I'm closer to retirement than, and trying to like talk about. Already started talking about college options with my son, and kind of like talking about estate planning with my dad, and kind of all these different navigating all these different tough topics that are not normally talked about in our Black and Brown communities. So kind of putting all that together, and like why not create a business, especially as people are living longer.
Yeah.
Currently, you know more and more people need to be talking about their finances, and estate planning and life insurance, and having those difficult, tough conversations to have.
Yeah, yeah. I can imagine. The I myself have gone through the rebuild after divorce, so I understand the struggle. I was fortunate in that I was already in the industry doing some of the work, so I knew some of the things to do to recover really quickly, or well, I consider it quickly. Some people may not consider it quickly, but in 8 years, my credit score is back in the 800s. Well, it was
Mm,
never in the 800 before; it was in the high 700s. Now it's in the 800s. I was 2 points away from a perfect credit score. So
wow.
yes, I've done the work. I certainly understand where you're coming from. Um, and for the Sandra generation, in terms of taking care of parents, there are six of us, so we're kind of all chip in a little bit to help with my mom. My dad is no longer here, so I understand some of the struggle. Is like you need to take care of you, but at the same time you got to think about your kids. You got to think about your parents.
Mhm.
So it's a real struggle trying to make sure the little money that you have is you're able to do what you need to do for the younger and the older generation. So
Absolutely.
I really get where you're coming from. So you said money isn't about numbers. It just isn't about numbers. There's a lot of emotion behind it. What are some
Mhm.
common signs maybe of emotional spending that people might not recognize in themselves?
I don't know. People just get like, marketing plays a big part of it. You see like, these
Mm,
commercials. We got, as of this recording, Amazon Prime sale happening right now. It's
hmm.
just like, um, it's just they get you with these ads, and like, let me just go buy a little something here, a little something there. Or there's also like emotional spending, like, and then or just people are just like, I think about it afterwards, like just like I'll spend, and then like deal with the consequences later on regarding my spending. And so it's a lot of different factors that go into the spending aspect of money. And I know a lot of people right now, because of inflation and stuff, people kind of, or should be dealing with like, all right, do I really want to spend this, do I really need this thing that that I would like to buy? But the wants and needs really plays a factor in terms of your money story and what you're willing to spend, what you're able to spend, or comfortable, and just live comfortably.
Yeah. And you mentioned about, even the sale, that's the supposed sale that's going on. We're so conditioned that if the word sale comes up, we think we're saving money. And
Mm,
many times we're not. And I would think that that's part of the emotion driven by the marketing, because marketing is very powerful. And
yes.
it tells us we need things that we don't really need. It tells us that we're less than if we are not like our neighbor who has the new car. We're less
Mm,
than if we're not like the neighbor who has the new house or the newest outfit or whatever. And we buy into that for the most part. I'm a rebel. So I'm like, you never know how much money I have based on what I drive and where I live. You'll never know, because I don't care what the neighbor does. Like they have fancy lights on their house here. I don't have it because I don't see the necessity. So I'm not going
mm,
to do it because the neighbors are doing it. So I'm a little bit different that way. But yes, so there were some of the things that happen because marketing is so powerful.
mm,
And one of the things I tell my client is to remove, uh, unsubscribe from all those emails. And if you decide you want to buy a car, then you start doing your research, because those emails will come into your inbox and they will tell you it's time for you to buy a car. And then before you know it, you'll start thinking, I need to buy a car, when you're really not ready. So
mm.
when you know you're ready, then you do the research instead of letting the marketers tell you you need a new sofa, you need a new car, you need a new whatever. So I unsubscribe from all those things, and I tell my clients to do the same thing, because those are things that are triggers that really cause us to spend emotionally when we really sometimes don't have it to spend. Um,
Exactly.
but we just do it because it's, oh, this is the thing to do. Oh, we have a sale. Let's go buy. Why?
Right.
Do you really need it? Do you really need it?
No, it's so
Yes.
true.
Yes. Yeah. And you mentioned also about money anxiety. And I know money anxiety show up differently, for folks, may show up differently for folks. I would say may show up differently
Mm.
for folks in the sandwich generation, because they're juggling again care of children, care of parents. So what are maybe one thing that you can say where money anxiety may show up differently for those who are in the sandwich generation?
I know for me, these last few days, especially with this the new bill
Mm,
that Congress put in, definitely I see myself very anxious of the potential cuts of food stamps, Medicaid. I know a
mm,
lot of our seniors are uh, who have Medicaid, or at least maybe manage Medicaid. Potential cuts to that, potential cuts to food stamps. If food stamps get cut, then that's money that's going to be coming out of my pocket to pay for
mm,
food,
mhm,
to care for my dad. So, which that money could be used for anything else, high yield savings account, or putting into the stock market, or just anything productive for me and my personal finances. So I know that that's like the big thing. I made some posts on social media about that. So just kind of educating folks about these potential cuts that supposedly is not going to happen until late 2026. So um, just that, between that and just literally like, death is expensive. So just having even
mhm,
just talk, even like the worst looking funeral home in the middle of the hood is going to cost you like 7, 8, 9 thousand dollars
mm,
for a funeral.
yeah.
Um, and I see a lot of people with, and no shade to folks, but I see people with the GoFundmes, and it's like, uh, instead of having the life insurance, because life insurance is really not very expensive,
Mhm,
especially if you're healthy. Start young, before like people get high blood pressure, diabetes, and stuff like that. So, if you're healthy, definitely you get a good deal, a good rate on the policy. Definitely shop around. and not having to do GoFundMe's because unfortunately I've had to use life insurance twice for family members, and I was like, it costs this much, like, and it's like, luckily I had the policies, and then use the remaining difference and kind of into savings for myself and for my kids, or do whatever afterwards. But it's having that conversation about life insurance, it causes money anxiety,
Yeah.
because it's kind of, or just overall death, it causes anxiety too, and having those conversations, especially if you have property or anything, like you don't want to go through like uh probate court, because that's expensive on top of that too. So it's a lot of details that people are not willing to talk about, that need to be talking about, because
Yeah.
it's expensive.
Yes, I just actually did the last podcast I did was with David Eady about this very topic. And he shared some stories, some horror stories about what's going on with families. And for those of you who are listening, I am going to put the link for that in the show notes for those who are listening on the podcast platform. Those of you who are going to be listening on YouTube, I will link that podcast episode so you can really understand some of the things to look at and some of the things that happen, because sometimes we think we don't have an estate, but we do. No matter what it is, we do. And you talk about, you know how you're thinking, okay, I need to have some expenses, money set aside for funeral expenses, but at the same time I need to be planning for college education for my kids. And the dichotomy is trying to make sure all of it work. I
Mm.
can imagine that does create some money anxiety.
No, absolutely, it definitely does. And again, it goes back to like the bill that just passed. There's a lot of cuts in terms of college funding, as well. And I know for myself, I'm 2 years away from having a high school graduate, and I'm already having conversations with my son about potential college visits, so where he wants to attend, what he wants to major in, and they're like, all right, you got to buckle down. It looks like we got to be doing more scholarship
Yeah,
applications than we originally had planned.
yeah,
So we got to get these writing skills together,
yeah,
write these essays.
yeah,
But and just be real. Like have an honest conversation. Like, this is what's going on, and kind of like we got to be ready. Like we don't have a choice. Like, like pretty much, like, for, don't want to get too political, but basically, this is our form of resistance, to be ready in terms of our personal finances, and that's the
yeah.
only way we're gonna you know stay afloat with everything going on.
Yeah, yeah, and educating ourselves, because as the title of this episode, "Old Money Lessons Are Hurting Your Wallet." If we think that we should behave the way our parents did, or our grandparents did, and approach money that way, and approach college, that's not going to work because the landscape has changed. So now we have to learn the new ways to maneuver in this new landscape,
Hmm.
because the what we would have gotten for loans, it's now lowered. So, and there's no way you can work because you're required to do 15 credit hours. So there's no way you can work and go to school, and be successful taking a heavy load like that. So there's so
Yeah.
many things that parents need to know and kids need to know about ways to work. And one of them is maybe going to community college. I
Hmm.
started at community college and I have a doctorate. Nobody asked me where I started. They say, "Oh, you have a doctorate." Okay, yeah, I have a doctorate. Nobody asked me about community college, but that's where I started. So I didn't know better, but it worked out that way, because when I
Hmm.
came to this country, I didn't know that was a way to go. It was close to me, and I went there.
Hmm.
But community college is always an option. There's
Hmm.
also the trades. There's not people in
Hmm.
the trades are making a lot of money. Somebody
Hmm.
came today and one little strip of my siding came off and he charged me $175. One little strip, not even the whole length of the house. One
Hmm.
little strip about 100 and maybe about 6 feet. and he charged me 175, and another guy was going to charge me 250. There's money in the trade. So,
Mm.
we just have to be, again, not allow the old money lessons to um to dwell on those, or to try to make those work for us in this new environment. We have to figure out how can we make things work for us based on what the current reality. So,
No, absolutely. It's funny because I literally had a conversation with my wife about, people in trades make good money, especially like, HVAC
mhm,
units, especially, with all this
mhm,
housing that, we have a housing crisis. So a lot of these new homes are eventually going to be built, and especially the town that I live in, they building homes like it's like crazy, and it's like, can only imagine the amount of like HVAC units per house and people putting it in. That's good money, and even having a
mhm,
conversation with my son about, he's open to go to a community college because he wants to, at least right now, wants to do a culinary program, and the
yeah,
community college in our state actually has a good culinary program, so you might as well
yeah,
be close to home, go to community college, save some money, and then if you want to get another degree doing something else for the other 2 years, you could do that. So
yeah,
just keep
yeah.
the options open.
Yes, I mean that's you say the perfect thing is keeping our options open, and a lot of parents are pushing kids to go to this college and that college, because it's not about the kids, it's about them. They can say, "Oh,
Mm,
my child goes to Harvard, my child goes to wherever," and they're making it about them. Meanwhile, this child is going to be saddled with debt, because there's
mm.
also changes to the plus loan. I'm saying it
Right,
wrong.
the parent plus loans. Yep.
Parent plus loan, there's
Hmm.
changes to that too, and they're again, how do you behave with those old money lessons in this new environment? You can't
Hmm.
carry those lessons into this new environment, so we have to look at things differently, and not make it about us and our ego. Because I
Hmm.
told my daughter, I said, listen, if you need to take a break for a year, do that. I'm not, you can stay here, do whatever you, as long as you are respecting my house and you are
Hmm.
working, that's fine. If you need to take a break, I'm not going to push you, because I want you, when you're done, to know this is really what I want for my education. And now she's on her way. She's going to be, her last semester will be at the end of this year. So, parents, if you're listening to us, please just listen to your kids. Try to maybe have them do some aptitude tests to see where they can go. Don't have them be pigeonholed and they need to be a doctor, or they need to be a lawyer
Hmm.
or whatever, because believe me, they're lawyers struggling. Okay.
Hmm.
They're doctors who left the field because of all the red tape and the bureaucracy. So don't push them into things that you think is what they need. Really check to see how they are, what will they what will be good for them based on their gifts and their skills, and help them to navigate that landscape.
No, absolutely,
Yeah.
and even like another study that just came out, is that the in the United States currently has more people unemployed with a 4-year degree.
Mm, I
The
believe
literally
that.
of new graduates
Mm,
with 4-year degrees, they just can't find a job. It doesn't matter what they major in, what school they went to, and just the landscape of the economy, and AI eventually taking over these entry level positions is only gonna skyrocket. So it's a real struggle out there.
yeah, it is, and I've been encouraging my daughter to look at entrepreneurship, because she's a very good leader. She's a strong leader. She's very gifted in the crafts and the arts, and so I've been encouraging her to. In fact, I started a business for her when she was younger, and like, you need to do something creative, because you are a creative. Do
Mm,
something like that. Don't be so focused on going. You want to, yes, go into the corporate world and take advantage of the education that you got, but in the meantime, don't rely on that solely. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens, because I keep telling her, I'm not gonna live forever. Okay.
that is a fact.
I'm not gonna live forever, so you won't be able to stay with me all the time. so, So before we move on to other questions, you mentioned about social media, that you post a lot about social media and on some of the new things that are going on. So I want to share with the folks where they can find you. So please tell them where they can find you, the best place they can find you.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Bass Moreno Consulting. That's right now the best way to reach out, DM me, follow me there. To refix, reworking my our website right now, so it's all that back end entrepreneurship stuff I talked about earlier. It, it kicks my behind sometimes, but definitely reach out on Instagram.
Okay. And for those of you on the video, I have it up on the screen so you can actually see it. And it will be in the show notes for the podcast folks, and it also on YouTube. All right. So Bass, let's talk about your book. In your book, Triumph Through Pain, you talk about maximizing potential during hard times. What are some tools and mindset shifts that helped you and could possibly help your listeners move from pain to purpose financially? Even just one tip.
Um, just stay the course,
Mhm.
whatever obstacles you're going through. I know when I first started writing the book, um, I started writing it in 2020, but even in 29, like towards the end of 2019, I had my girlfriend at the time, she's not my wife. We had talked about moving in together, moving from New York City, where we're from, to move to Delaware to buy a home. And of course, pandemic came, and like, and that we're having conversations, or like, do we need to like put hold off for the move until 2021? But we still pushed through, and luckily she had supportive family. There's like, just moving with us, and until you find your own home. So we did that. But during that time, I was writing my book, and kind of talking about the self awareness, this still maintaining my goals of being a first gen homeowner. To basically like the grief and loss. I lost my mom in 2020. Working in New York City, working with older adults, which is another reason why I also started my business of the sandwich generation, because at the time I was working as a social worker in New York City, working, providing case management, social work services for older adults, and literally having 10 social work clients passing away due to COVID. So uh, between all that loss, all that trauma, and still maintaining the course of moving out of New York, started writing the book, started learning about, you know, starting an LLC, starting my business, and learning about personal finances, and trying to improve my personal finances, because now I needed to start saving money to eventually put the 20% down on my home, and worried about my
Mhm.
student loans, and paying down my loans for the income ratio, and all that all that stuff that's needed to to make sure my mortgage application gets approved, and get the best rate possible that I could. And at that time, 2020, the interest rates were literally uh, under 3%, during that time. So definitely having good credit definitely became very beneficial at that time. So just staying the course, whatever your goal is, and whatever. And I know it's hard. It's definitely is even harder now, 5 years later. But whatever your goal is, and even through the obstacles, is keep pushing. Life will throw curveballs at you, or will throw knuckle curveballs at you, but definitely do your best to maintain the course. And it might take you a little longer. Like, that is a marathon, not a sprint, in terms of personal
Yeah.
finances for folks. So just whatever your goals are, if you got to write it down, write it down. If you got to put it in your notes app, if you have an Apple phone, do that, whatever works for you. And kind of like, all right, do a checklist. And I mean, I'm not great with checklists. I just knew in my head, like, this is what I wanted for myself and for my family. And I got tired of living in New York. I wanted to get the hell out. So it's like, so I did that, did that for me, and so far, I'm still working on my finances and just talking about, you know, on the business side too is, got some debts to try to pay down, and like you got to figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good note to end on, where, you talk about just stay in the course. Put the systems in place that will help you to stay on top of your finances. Because I like to help people that none of us came here knowing we're born knowing how to manage money. And it's a matter of, okay, this is what I want. How do I get there? This is where I want to get to. How do I get there? What are the steps to put in place? For some of us, it's 5 steps. Some of us, it's 10. And it's okay. If it's 10, and if it's 5 for me and 10 for you, that's okay. Just, put the things in place based on your situation, based on your circumstances, put the things in place. And as Bass said, stay the course. So thank you again, Bass, for hanging out with me on the Dr. Seb Talks Money podcast. Again, you can find Bass on Instagram at Bass Moreno Consulting. That's BASMORENO Consulting. You can find and follow him there, where he shares all things personal finance, around social work, and around the sandwich generation. So for those of you who are listening, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on YouTube. If you listen on Apple Podcasts, leave a review and a rating. If you listen on Spotify, leave a rating. And as you are completing your ratings, remember that we love the number 5. Until then, this is Dr. Seb saying, stay savvy, and we'll see you next time.